Chapter 20. Frenzy in the Eagle Hotel. There was no way we were going to be allowed to sleep. Maybe a conspiracy of the gods against us. Maybe the way it will always be for me, I was thinking, as I heard the ferocious hammering at the door. Before I could shift myself from my bed of intended slumber, the lock turned and the door opened. Jeff and his friend John Smith poked their heads inside. "Been looking for you. Wondered if you was all right. Wondered if the mad old bastard had done for you as well," said Jeff. "What's the fuss about? And what's this I heard in the news? I got woken by the radio and the news was on. Got something to do with Mr. D, wasn't it? Mr. D's been something... What do you mean done for us as well?" "There's been one hell of a bloody last Good Friday session in the Eagle last night, or rather this morning. Ever see that film?" said John Smith. "Smithy, enough of your bullshit. I tell you what," said Jeff. "Why don't you and your girlfriend there?" And there's me thinking we could have got something together one day, eh? Vain dreams. "Best thing for you two is to read this special in the Daily Post. I'll see you later." He threw the newspaper to me, and the two of them left. When I got to the hotel, there were a couple of policemen outside and a tape cordon around the doorway. I wanted to go in, but I didn't think they'd let me. I went up to one of them and said, "Excuse me, officer. I work here. I wonder if I could be of any assistance." "Well, you might be, but I'll have to ask the super, and he's still inside. If you don't mind waiting, sir, we'll deal with you when we can." "What exactly happened?" I said. And he handed me another newspaper, which had the story all over the front page. "Frenzied extremist in hotel gun attack. Kills 1, wounds 3. Last night, a crazed political extremist, Mr. Harold Butterthwaite, 73, shot and killed Mr. John Devlin, manager of the Eagle Hotel in Nelson Street. The horrific incident took place during a meeting following the inaugural conference of the hotel's inner city campaign. After firing 3 bullets at point-blank range into Mr. Devlin's head and body, Mr. Butterthwaite went on to shoot a number of the conference delegates, including Mr. Delroy McDermott, outspoken leader of the Liverpool Black Jihad. It is thought that the killer had developed an extremist political philosophy, which may have led him to consider members of ethnic minorities and their supporters a threat to the British nation. A Liverpool organisation, White Light, literature for which was in the killer's possession at the time of the shooting, has disavowed all links with the incident, claiming it can offer no support to violence or terrorism. In another bizarre coincidence, it was discovered that the killer had once been employed at the Eagle Hotel, and that his nephew, Mr. Alan Butterthwaite, had recently been transferred from the management position after a mental breakdown. A witness, Mr. Alfred Speed, 56, a removals consultant, described the incident. "We were having a drink when we saw the old man pull a gun out of his jacket. First of all, we took no notice, because he was dressed in fancy dress, we thought. Some kind of general's uniform or something. We thought he might have been some kind of cabaret. You know, they have these hotel things where you act out a murder and the guests have to discover the killer. So we thought the military uniform was a bit of a joke. But he must have thought he was on some special mission on another planet or something. Next thing we know, he's over by the manager, that Mr. Devlin, who was talking to a group of black people. The old man started reading from some sheet of paper. 'You have been sentenced to death for betrayal of the white nation. Your opinions condemn the white race in this country to drowning in a black tide. For such blasphemy to your race, the only penalty is death.' Then he starts shooting. First of all, he gets the manager. Then it's just shooting at random until it seemed he stopped for a breather. That's when he was overcome by Mr. Peter Osaku, who everyone knows as Jellyman. Police later stated that Mr. Osaku, otherwise known as Jellyman, a local club owner and community leader, had shown great courage in tackling the gunman, since it was not known how many bullets there were left in the gun. "Terrific story, eh?" said a voice next to me. I looked at the man who was nodding at the paper in my hand. He identified himself as a reporter from a national daily and had overheard what I had said to the policeman. I asked him what paper he was working for, and he said, "Let's just say it's not one of the qualities." And he tapped his nose with his forefinger. He looked like a reporter because he had a white Mac and was waving a small microphone around in front of my mouth. "I heard you say you work here, like, yeah? So what's this bloke like then, the victim? Anything of interest there to our readers? Any skeletons in the closet? Been giving it to any of the staff? Females, like? Or males, even better?" "Sorry?" I said. "Well, alright, leave that. What about this Andy Man character then? The assassin? He hasn't got anything there that's worth a second visit." "What?" I said. "Second visit?" "Listen, mate, I'm putting a story together, right? I need info quick. Second visit means worth looking at more deeply. Anyway, doesn't seem as if I'm going to get much out of you. The wheel's turning, but there doesn't seem to be any hamster inside." He made a big fuss then of turning off the tape recorder and looking around for someone else to interview. I saw Nancy coming up the street and waved to her, but the newspaper fellow was there first. "Can I ask you, miss, were the deceased or the assassin known to you in any way? Miss Piss Off. Nancy Piss Off's my name. Piss Off by name, Piss Off by nature." "All right. Message coming through clear and fast," said the reporter. "Ted, oh God, said Nancy. "To think I'd been alone with him. Oh my God, Holy Mother of God. Old Harry, I mean. I've actually been in his company. Alone. Just the two of us. Me and that bloody nutter. Holy Christ on blessed Calvary on the bloody cross." "You mean you've..." I said. "No," said Nancy. "But he begged me for it, on his hands and knees. Offered me free board and lodging for life in Fazacurly. Jesus, poor Devlin, eh? And what do you mean about saving your life there?" "Well, all those letters he sent me. All those hideous, filthy letters, remember? It was him that sent them, all right. Me and Jellyman got that one sorted out. But it was definitely him, and he threatened me. Threatened me with death. Being with you last night has probably saved my life. I don't know how to..." "I do," said Nancy, and pulled me towards her. Then I saw faces I recognised. We went over to our lot. They were all there. Claudia, Leroy and Jellyman, who I noticed was wearing a sling. Alfred Speed, removals consultant. Tommy, my maternal next of kin. Jeff, and John Smith. I noticed my mother had another one of those pie dishes on her lap, covered with a blue and white checked dishcloth. She looked at me and Nancy. "In the circumstances, son, we wouldn't bring ourselves to eat it. I mean, once the ambulance arrived, there was no way I could get this pie into the oven. Couldn't even think of eating a single bite of it. It'll have to do for the kids. Even when Alf says to me, for a slice, I says, pull the other one that's got bells on. There's just been a fella here shot, and you're thinking of your belly. Have some respect." I said. "Well," I said, "Mother, you've done the right thing. Now what happened?" "Well, the fact of the matter is, son, I didn't get to see much, like." "One thing's for certain," said Leroy. "The bastard was looking for you. Remember? He said, what was it now? He said to Devlin, just before he put the bullets into him, 'Where's that other little nigger loving get, that Ted bloke? is next on their bloody list. Bringing that black weightlifting sod to threaten me. The weightlifter being Jellyman there. Something like that, wasn't it? Claudia put her arm on mine and said, "Lucky you didn't tell us where you were going. Because Devlin had no idea. That's a fact. Now I feel sorry for the bugger. Despite his faults, he didn't deserve that, did he? I mean, God. Just because you put on a bit of a bloody confidence, you don't expect your false teeth to be blasted through the back of your skull, do you?" "But what exactly happened?" I said. "Shall I do it? I'll tell him," said Jeff, looking at the rest of the group, who nodded in agreement the way people do at funerals and other serious events. I wasn't involved in the meeting. I just came to the hotel for late drinks, but I followed everything. I spotted old Harry there right from the start, and I was thinking what a great laugh we had that time when we caught him and Mr. Devlin, God rest his soul, in flagrante with Claudia and Nancy, remember? Anyway, so I was just studying the old sod. So anyway, I get myself and John a bit of a drink, can't remember what exactly. 2 pints of laugh it was, said John, looking what would have been called solemn if it were anyone else. "Eh?" said Alf. "Never heard of that drink before. One of these real ale breweries, is it?" "Nah, you poxy scarce glutton. Laugh is laugh, and titter, innit? Bitter. Laugh and titter equals bitter. Cockney rhyme and slang and all that." "All right," said Jeff. "Needn't spend all day on what we drank." Listen, I want to clear one thing up. I'm not really a Scouser, all right? Born in Coed Poth, North Wales, I was. "Pulled other one, Scott Bell's on," said my mother. "I did ask what happened," I said. Had the feeling I could be here all day and not get the whole story. "Right. Look, no more diversions or interruptions, okay? Yeah? So there we are, getting pissed, nice and quietly like. And I'm just looking around the room, and Jellyman does his famous trick, you know, the one where his hands are all bloody and that. And he goes over to old Harry, like, and he's taking the piss mercilessly. You know, asking him what rank he got in the army and what medals he'd won. Lucky thing is, fella's a bleeding brain-dazed zombie, isn't he? He didn't even realise they were all laughing at him. At the end, Jellyman lifts the old git up with one hand underneath his arse, if you get my meaning. It goes on like that for quite a while. Then what happens? Oh yeah. Next thing we hear is this bloody voice shouting, "Community singing will begin with spirited renditions of the land of hope and glory and Jerusalem." It was him, the old bastard in the uniform. Ramrod straight, but wavering a bit. Must have had a few pints or a few double whiskies, and before we know where we are, he's bang at it. Belting it out. Giving the old Luciano Pavarotti. Real bloody bellow it was, yeah. Of course, this to us is still very much of a laugh. To all and sundry. Not just to the ones who didn't know the words, but to everybody. Even the respectable old codgers Devlin had managed to pull in from the colleges and schools and whatever. They were all laughing their heads off as well. But then the old bastard stops, doesn't he? He stops singing. He turns to face everybody. He's got this friggin' terrifying look on his face, I can tell you. Everyone just stopped the laughing and waited. Because I'm telling you, the bloody bastard looked evil. Evil, alright? Next thing we know, he's got his bloody Union Jack flag out. And he lays it right across the floor and he says, "This flag represents the last bastion of the elected white race on this earth. Anyone befouling it, treading on it, or otherwise displaying any form of disrespect will be summarily punished as befits a court-martial under battle circumstances." Or something like that. I think I got all of it. At this point, John Smith interrupted. You didn't mention the business of the food, did you? Oh, right, yeah. See, the thing is, Mr. Devlin had arranged this kind of buffet. There was all kinds of African and West Indian food. Yeah, man, said Leroy. Some nice patties and hot chicken and lamb and gari and stuff. Yeah, that was nice food. Yeah, that's right. That was all a bit earlier, after Land of Open Glory and the Wicked Stairs, but before the Union Jack on the Floor business. Anyway, we hear this scream. Old Harry again. Oh, we can do without this wog shite. We can do... And we can do without this wog shite. What's wrong with fucking bangers and mash? He screams. Yeah, exact words. God, I don't know. All the black people holding themselves back, really. One or two pointing to their heads, you know, as if to say this fella's got a serious case of dry rot up there. But no resistance. They were probably too freaked out to believe that anyone could say things like that in this day and age. Yeah. So that was before the flag business. Then what? Well, as I say, the flag's in the middle of the floor, you see. Of course, there's a general air of disbelief about what's going on, given that, like, Smithy and myself have to admit old Harry was a bloody grape crasher. The bastard shouldn't have even been here in the first place. So I suppose when Devlin did what he did, he was just trying to tidy up his conference. Last thing you want at a conference advertising the tolerance of your average Liverpudlian, etc., is a flaming redneck fascist straight out of National Front training school. So what Devlin does is wanders over to old Harry, who is now like Mahatma Gandhi sitting on his flag, except he's got a glass of whiskey in front of him and the murderous, violent thoughts in his head, as we later found out. So Devlin says, all polite like, look, if you don't mind, there's a lot of people here and really don't want this kind of thing, so please move it, okay? Well, I suppose that's like a bucket of blood to the great white shark. Old Harry says, the last time anybody gave orders like that, it was Montgomery to you, you friggin' traitorous git, and it was in the desert. And I'm talking about the Aluminium War and the British Army, you bastard. If you want me to move, you'll have to get a few more people than yourself, and you better carry arms. And you should have heard the laughs from the people who must have been thinking that old Harry was some kind of cretinous reincarnated lunatic or a weird alternative comedian. Devlin couldn't believe his ears. Harry, he said, we worked together before, didn't we? Now all I want is a favour from you, just one little favour. Favours? What fucking favours? What favours did I ever get from anybody? Me, who got bloody decorated from what I did in the desert during the war. I wish to God Monty was here to vouch for me amongst you friggin' shower of communists and niggers. I tell you another thing, you'll never get me working back here. All kinds of other bizarre stuff like that he was going on about. Mr. Devlin must have been thinking that this was just about as much of this sort of high-octane lunacy he needed in these circumstances. Not realising, of course, the fate awaiting him, the terrible, unexpected hole at the back of his head.